Our Lokati here. Today we are talking about our Lightning Strike Slayer. This is a Trinity-based build, so it is an elemental damage Slayer. And we have chosen Lightning Strike because it has gotten a lot of love with the new changes to melee skills in time for patch 3.25. Now, Lightning Strike has a history of having great clear, great bossing, lots of scalability, and the Slayer class has strong recovery and now incredibly strong tankiness with very, very basic items. The POB we're looking at here is like a day 1, day 2, day 3, full T3 affixes on rare gear, one timeless jewel on it, and very, very simple to put together. Now, the key skills that are scaling this are going to be Trinity for damage, along with multi-strike damage on life, elemental damage with attacks, and endurance charge on melee stun. These are the gems that you're going to select into all lightning strike so that we can make it do damage. The endurance charge on melee stun only applies on the initial hit of the Vol Lightning Strike, so you're only going to be generating endurance charges off of the melee hit portion of Vol Lightning Strike. And so most of your endurance charge generation is going to come from Enduring Cry, which we're going to be utilizing as well. But this does give you a little bit of additional, as well as a 4% more damage per endurance charge, and we're stacking 7 of them. That's 28% more damage. Very, very strong node on this as well. The rest of these are fairly self-explanatory. In order to trigger Trinity, we are using a elemental damage sword with fire, cold, and lightning. And you want your highest tier rolls to be on fire and cold, so that as you're playing the character, Lightning Strike is going to be doing some lightning damage, some cold damage, and some fire damage, and keep all of your Trinity points up at a maximum. You want your resonance count to be 50 on all those. And the way you achieve that by making sure that your minimum lightning damage is lower than the average on your other ones, and your maximum damages on both of these are in the middle of your total lightning damage. It's a little complicated on Trinity, but it's real simple. Just use a weapon that's got all of it, and your Trinity will do what it needs to do so that you do damage. Now, we have strong recovery through Leeeech on this character. We'll go over that real quick. So on our tree, we are taking Leeeech nodes here. We're taking Leeeech nodes here. We're taking 10% of Leeech's instant here. We're taking increased total recovery from Leeeech here. And we're taking life leech from melee damage as instant. Now, what this breakdown looks like and why we chose Slayer for this build is the melee strikes from Lightning Strike are instant leech. That means when you hit something with the melee portion of Lightning Strike and you do 2,430,000 damage, you are getting a maximum effect leech on your character that is instant. So your hit point total will constantly be pushed up to the max. We are also doing 10% of Leech's instant on the projectiles. So that's another 900k instant Leech on the projectile here. So that's also going to help keep our life topped up. Anytime we're hitting a target that is not in melee, we're now getting instant Leech at a rate of about half of what Vol Pact is giving us here. That's another benefit to our recovery. Now we have converted our remaining Leech, which would be 90% of the damage that projectiles are doing, is just general Leech, which recovers over time. Instead of just having an additional recovery over time, we are choosing to use a Lethal Pride Timeless Jewel, which gives us Strength and Blood, which takes that non-instant Leech recovery, converts it into physical damage reduction. And in order to make sure that physical damage reduction is very high, we do have maximum total life recovery from Leech here. We have total life recovery. Well, this doesn't affect that, but the maximum total life recovery from Leech here affects it. And the maximum total life recovery from Leech here affects it. And the maximum total from life recovery Leech here affects it. Maximum total here affects it. And then this 25% increase maximum total affects it as well. So we can take a 32k fizz hit. That's 3 Shaper Slams to the face because of this node right here. We remove this node from the tree, you'll see our fizz hit goes from 32k to 18k. So this is an incredibly strong node for reducing large physical damage hits. Now we still have a respectable amount of armor to mitigate the damage from the remaining physical hits that are coming in that are not large, very small. But this Strengthened Blood is going to be a tremendous defensive layer for us with all of these Slayer Leech passives going on and Vault Packs, making sure that we stay high on health as well. Now, we do still have a Leech over time effect. It is just not healing us. And so our Overleech will keep that going for longer periods of time, resulting in that physical damage protection existing for a longer period of time after you stop hitting the target. So that is also part of our Slayer tree right here that we're getting out of Brutal Fervor here. Brutal Fervor also makes us take less damage while leeching and gives us increased maximum leech recovery, which is going to help with making sure that the bonus damage reduction from Strengthened Blood continues to stay very, very high. We're also choosing Slayer because Slayer gets Headsman. Headsman is a tremendous execute here. 20% or lower life cuts your boss time down significantly, especially in bosses where the later phases are much more dangerous. So this is kind of icing on the cake for Slayer here, making it the best choice for the build. Now we are running Blood Magic on this build as well. Blood Magic removes all of our mana, gives us 10% more maximum life, converts all of our skills to a life cost instead of a mana cost. Now, as a result of this, the only aura we're running is Precision. With the nerfs to Determination and Grace, those are becoming less and less valuable as auras. New base items are going to have a much higher armor than this, so we should be able to get somewhere up to 30k armor here with the new base items and the new quality changes. Our damage will also go up with the new quality changes to weapons. So we have a lot of quality of life coming into the new patch for characters that are not using a tremendous amount of auras. So we did opt in for Blood Magic to simplify the character and make it a little bit more streamlined, especially with the increasing cost of melee skills with the patch. Now, if you don't like Blood Magic and you just gotta have auras and you want to manage mana, or you don't want to manage mana, you can take Blood Magic away. You can run Determination and Grace, lose max life, and your recovery goes down because the life cost goes up, and then you're starting to hit yourself on gem slots, and that's more of a late game decision once you've got 2 6-socketed items and 4 sockets and everything else, and you're kind of min-maxing everything. But for a day 1, day 2, day 3, I think Blood Magic is definitely the way to go here. We are also an endurance build. This is the other reason that we chose Slayer. Your maximum endurance charges is equal to your maximum frenzy charges. We have 7 frenzy charges, thus we have 7 endurance charges. We are getting endurance charges through Enduring Cry and Endurance Stun on melee hit. We are getting frenzy charges through Frenzy on kill and Frenzy on hitting a unique enemy. So the only time where you're going to be low on frenzy charges are if you're very, very slow to kill a rare and there's no enemies around for you to be killing to generate those frenzy charges. But anytime you're fighting a boss or anytime you're fighting a large pack of enemies, you'll have both frenzy charges and endurance charges. Now, the changes to endurance charges were phenomenal. The changes to endurance charges were 4% additional less elemental damage taken per endurance charge. That makes our elemental max hit go from 56k to 77k. So that is one of the main reasons that we are running this Slayer build, so that we can maximize the advantage of those new endurance charges. Now, we are still running Spell Suppression. Spell Suppression we are getting primarily from our items. We are running a Spell Suppression chest, a Spell Suppression helm, Spell Suppression gauntlet, Spell Suppression boots, so on and so forth. So Spell Suppression is still a strong defensive layer and can be combined with the elemental max hit damage reduction from endurance charges, make this character very, very tanky on all incoming elemental damage. Now, our Lightning Strike, like I said, is kind of the purpose of this character is to maximize Lightning Strike. We are using Vol Lightning Strike because Vol Lightning Strike gives us a very powerful cooldown for killing bosses very, very quickly. You can see our full DPS breakdown here. While we are attacking with Lightning Strike, we are getting melee hits with Lightning Strike. We can have up to 2 additional Vol Lightning Strikes out through the usage of souls, and it can store 2 attempts of Vol Lightning Strike on the boss, which boosts our damage up to about 20 million DPS for strict boss DPS. For single target DPS, we're going to be doing 10 million DPS from the lightning strike projectiles, and then we'll be doing another 3 million DPS from the lightning strike melee hit. It makes a net total of about 13 million DPS for a single target non-buff situation where we're not using ball lightning strike. So I think for a situation where we are running T3 affixes on everything, these are phenomenal numbers. Now, you'll want to start looking at other options for gearing your character once you have gotten to this point. This item, for example, could have better rolls on it. You don't need all of this accuracy, and if you get a bad accuracy roll on it, you'll be fine because we are 6K over 5,400. Again, we are a precise technique build, so we need to make sure that our accuracy is always over our life total. That also means our hit rate is always going to be good. We're not going to be critting, so you don't have to worry about any critical strike or crit on your gear or anything. Our items over here, we are using a couple of Searing Exarch, Eater of the Worlds, just to get an idea. These are relatively inexpensive ones to get a hold of, just to scale your character a little bit more. So we do have some of those on here. We are running life on everything. This amulet right here is important because it meets your strength and your intelligence needs for your skills and is a nice, easy solution to those. Running amethyst rings for chaos res, enchanting with elemental damage for our rings. We're enchanting increased damage while leeching on our gloves. And so all of this gearing is really, really straightforward. I have not included any resistances on any of this gearing because you can just figure your resistances out. There's nothing complicated here. On your helm, if you have cold res, then on your chest, you need to look for fire res. And we have just fixed into our configuration here, assuming that you're going to get all of your resistances on your existing gear. And we've got plenty of suffixes available for that. There's very few suffixes here. Life is very, very important to us. The higher our life total is, the less chance we're going to get stunned. We are not stun immune on this build as it sits, so you want to make sure that your life is very high to reduce the times you get stunned. High life also affects how large your leech pool is. The size of your leech pool affects the amount of healing that you're going to get from all of your instant leech. So you do want to focus on the highest roll life that you can on every single slot here. And then you want to couple that with accuracy, spell suppression, and evasion rating. On our flasks, we're running a Quicksilver flask with move speed, obviously. We're running a spell suppress with phasing and reduced effective curses here. We're running an onslaught flask with attack speed. We're running an evasion flask with evasion, an armor flask with armor. Nothing complicated here. On our jewels, these are some simple crafted jewels with increased life, increased damage, attack speed with swords. We do have an option for a cluster jewel in here. We're using a cluster jewel on the tree right here. If you don't have access to cluster jewel, it's not a requirement. You can always knock your cluster jewel off right here. Lose about 3 million DPS. You can pick up the majority of this DPS with a node right here. Get some of that DPS back. You can also come down here and pick up a node on Wrecking Ball down here and taking 3% to triple damage over here will help to recover the majority of that damage loss. So you do have some options until you're able to craft a cluster jewel for you here. And then of course we're running Lethal Pride, the Warriors of Kaom, because that gets us access to the Strength and Blood over here. Now we're going to be continuing to work on this, and I will continue to make some updates on this so that we can get this guide put together for you. It has some changes still that we're looking at. POB is not perfect yet, so everything is a work in progress. Down here we will have Act 1 leveling 1 through 12, Act 2 leveling up to level 32, Act 4 at level 43 with a lightning strike swap. You can level with either Molten Strike or Spectral Throw, whatever you prefer here. And then we're going to be adding some additional trees down here for some of the mid game and the late game, and we'll keep you updated with those as well. We're also going to have some notes and some information over here so you understand how everything is working. You can refer to things, and so right now for Leech, we have 100% Leech on melee, 10% Leech on proj, and this is of course instant Leech on melee, can't type, and instant Leech on proj. And then Strength of the Blood, physical damage reduction for all of our Leech over time. Again, we're getting our charges from Frenzy on Kill, Frenzy on hitting a unique, Endurance charges with Enduring Cry, Endurance charge on melee stun, Fortify on melee hit, we didn't talk about, but that is on our tree right over here. We are running melee, hits fortify, maximum fortifications to recover the -3 fortification loss there. And of course, we are running rage on hit with +7 to maximum rage over here. These are resulting in 43% more attack damage for having the rage. And then the fortify is resulting in tremendous quality of life on our max fizz damage hit and max LA and max chaos. Fortify is a very, very strong. So we'll always keep notes over here. Now, this build does rely on return proj, which is 100% more projectile damage because the projectiles will hit the target, go out very fast, return very fast, and hit the targets again. If, for some reason, return projectiles cannot be placed on a weapon that is usable with lightning strike, that is going to have an impact on our build, but it does not kill our build. So if we don't have access to it, we can use a physical sword with extra fire, cold, and lightning damage from Fizz enchant for about 85% of the same DPS. And what that means is there is another rune enchantment that's coming out that is gain 50% of physical damage as extra fire, cold, and lightning damage. If that is usable on weapons that we can use and return projectiles is not, we take this sword, we swap it over to a Fizz sword, and then we run this other rune enchant, which gives us extra fire, cold, and lightning based on Fizz. Now, if they do that, we can also add Infernal Cry into our build, which is 25% of physical damage as extra fire on hit to go along with this to help cover this gap, but we'll be at about 85% before we add Infernal Cry in there. So on launch day, if everything gets out there and return proj isn't attainable, we've got some options on how to scale the character without utilizing return proj, and some of those might end up being better. We won't know until the game actually gets here, but we will be doing daily updates on the build as we progress, updating the POB as we progress, updating you on how you can play catch up if you're not progressing as far as I am, or giving you some plans for the future if you're further ahead than I am. And always, if you have any questions, dude, just come to my Twitch channel. I love helping people get their characters together. One of my favorite parts about this game is like the community-driven min-maxing and progressing and banter. I don't know everything about Path of Exile. I know a lot about Path of Exile, but inevitably someone will hop on and say, hey, you could do this differently than that. And then we've got some improvements that we can add into our build, post updates on, and keep everyone on the same road of making sure they're enjoying their Lightning Strike Slayer in 3.25 of PoE. Thank you very much.